That was the trailer for Do the Right Thing, the Spike Lee film, his third movie. A lot of people mistake it and say it's his directorial debut when it wasn't. This was his third movie after She's Gotta Have It in School Days. I get that confused. Sometimes I think it's his directorial debut, too. It's an excellent movie, but can you imagine if this was his first? My God. I thought for required viewing, since this is a required viewing show, we don't have to like dive in as if this is like a new movie and do general thoughts. I thought it'd be smart to kind of narrow down 3 different sections or 3 different talking points for this movie that I think will provide us a lot of meat, because we originally thought to discuss this, and it's still relevant today, about, in lieu of the George Floyd protests and the murder of Floyd. I thought that it would be an excellent movie to revisit. And I think the first takeaway I had from this, and I'll just get the conversation started with this before we segue into the big question to start us off. This movie came out in 89. This movie's 31 years old. And you get this like stinking feeling when watching this movie that like we should have learned from it in 89, and we didn't at all. At all. Because a year or 2 after this movie came out, the Rodney King incident happened. Yep. That happened, and then you've had like, countless almost incidents since then, and with the reinvigoration too of the Black Lives Matter movement in lieu of Floyd's murder, it just goes to show you the big question, though. And this is a question that pisses Spike Lee off. It really does, if you watch interviews with him. But I think it's worth discussing. And the controversy about it is the big question of whether or not Mookie, played by Spike Lee, did do the right thing. As vague and broad as that is, because I believe the reaction to the film's ending says a lot about where your concern lies. Are you mad about Radio Raheem's death, or the ensuing riot and destruction of Sal's Pizzeria? Dom, start us off with that.
After much consideration, I have come to the conclusion, the balanced conclusion, that Mookie, what he should have done, he should not have thrown the trash can through Sal's Pizzeria. What he should have done is taken the personal responsibility to channel that energy into a strongly worded but polite letter to his local representative asking for improved police training. Then, after much hard work and moving up the ladder at Sal's for 30 to 35 years, buy the business himself, or at least go into a mutual business partnership with the current proprietor. And after that, using the extra income and status, first provide financial compensation to Radio Raheem's remaining family, then invest in the local community free from overbearing taxes. No, man, dude, that's such a loaded question, yo. Which I understand, you have to do, because that's the big question that has haunted this movie for so long. But I freaking hate that question, reviewing it now. Because I should state that I did watch this movie when I was very little. And both times, multiple times, but specifically 2 times I remember my parents stopping me from watching it. And we'll go back to the question, but they stopped me from watching it because one was the Ice Cube scene where he's rubbing all over the woman. It's like, we should not watch this anymore. I was like, okay, whatever. And then the second time was when the riot started. It was like, not too short afterwards, but it was pretty close to 9/11, and it was like, let's not show Brooklyn on fire right now. Whatever. But yes, as Joe said, having watched it fully and complete for the first time in a very long time, quite possibly the first time watching it from start to finish. The question is like, dude, what was Steve? I'm sorry, Steve. Let me make sure. Was the question, did Mookie do the right thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even like that question to begin with, because that's such a binary thing and such a dumb way of approaching this, because it's like, dude, the dude's angry. He just saw his friend get choked out, and all this tension and inward fighting has just been building up for a long time.
On the hottest
I don't know if I'm
day of
taking
the year, too.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm weaseling out of this question, but to me that's like a Weasley question to begin with, kinda. But you do bring up the good point that, yeah, people do obsess over the 2 things that happen in this movie, and I can totally see. I haven't seen Spike Lee respond to the question or seen any videos or read any reactions from him, but like, if I were him, I would absolutely be pissed that people are so focused on that dichotomy. So okay, if I must concede to the question specifically, did Mookie do the right thing? Technically, no. because yeah, like all he did was in that specific moment, he did kind of make it worse. He did make it worse, right? He wound up getting more people arrested. He wound up, yeah, hurting financially and, proprietarily speaking.
He's out of a job.
He's out of a job now and whatever. And what he did do was, and he hurt, the one place that employed him from people who weren't evil at their core, but, whatever. And, kind of a distraction to the larger societal problems. But that's such a privileged and, holier than thou way of approaching that question. I'm probably stealing Joe's thunder here, but I just don't like it. So technically, did Mookie do the right thing? He didn't help. I don't think he did. But if I were in his situation, from someone who's just, it's a hot day, all day, you've been working, walking about, taking crap from everyone, taking crap from the man, unironically, the man, and just the overbearing system of capitalism, corrupt democracy, blah, blah, blah. We could go up and down for an hour on this, but like, dude, what? Yeah, Steve, you posed the question correctly. Is that, or you give the context correctly, which is that, is there empathy when you ask this question, in your reaction to it? And that's the kind of the Weasley way I kind of have to go about that, but it's kind of a Weasley question.
Well said. Yeah. Well said and good monologue too. Before I throw it over to you, Joe, the point I always came back to, even after the first viewing of the movie, and I say this, and I don't think this is talked about a lot, Mookie probably saved Sal's life though by throwing that trash can, because it redirected the mob to the store, which can ultimately be replaced.
I had not considered that.
That's the point I always bring up too, because I've had conversations with people about this. Mookie probably saved his life.
Because Sal's about to get jumped because he literally says, well, he started it. He came into my restaurant by playing that fucking music. God, that music. I'm sorry. I'm just quoting Sal.
Okay, now it's earned. Now it's earned.
Because he said that, and it was immediately causing unrest there. Yeah. And but I mean, even if you see it too, he doesn't angrily throw that trash can either, Mookie. He just sort of like moseys over, takes the garbage out, and just like with a stone face just throws it.
That's
like
so
he's
true.
not like, it's true. He's kind of like, you know what I mean? Almost like, like it's part of his job in a way. Like, I always thought that was an interesting context. Joe,
because he needs to get his money afterwards.
Yes, he does.
He still needs to get his money. I didn't think about that.
No, I mean, like, I kind of get what Dom is saying too, with his point, because like Mookie doesn't do a lot of right things in this movie, man. I never realized that till watching it now. Like, Mookie doesn't go into work on time. Mookie doesn't go do deliveries in a timely manner.
He is a shit employee.
He really is a bad. He's a real dick, honestly. Like, to his girlfriend and his son that he apparently doesn't see. I'm just like, wow, Mookie is he's a real dick. But like, so is everybody else in this movie. Everybody's kind of just gray in this movie. There's not really like this like person on a pedestal and then the bad guy in this movie. Everybody's like always hot-headed, and I think like it being on a hot day kind of adds to that effect. And I'll get to that later too when we talk about memorable supporting characters when we discuss that. But did he do the right thing? And I'm kind of like with Dom. No, he necessarily didn't, but I see why he did it, and I empathize with him. Because even he brings up the point that many people brought up throughout Twitter and everything. It's just like, look, he even tells Sal, he's like, man, look, insurance is going to cover everything for this building anyway. You're going to get your restaurant back. We're not going to get Radio Raheem back. He's dead. And so, like, it's like, you hear that, and it's just like, do I feel sorry more for Sal or for Mookie in the neighborhood? It's for Mookie in the neighborhood. They lost a close friend. This guy was a symbol for all of them. Everybody greets him as he's walking by and everything. Dude just plays his boombox. He's giving the whole neighborhood a bunch of tunes to listen to, and he gets choked to death just because he gets choked to death. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's messed up. So like, did he do really the right thing? No, it definitely caused more riots. People got arrested, like Don was pointing out, but I empathize with him. I get it. I totally get where it's coming from.
Well said. And this was the part too that I brought up even like during the George Floyd protests. Like I was telling like even my parents and stuff. I said like I hate to see these businesses that have just weathered a pandemic and are still weathering a pandemic get their windows smashed and get looted.
Yeah.
I don't like to see that. But I said at the end of the day, to tie it back to contemporary relevance, because that's what this movie is, contemporary, and it's more than relevant. I said, but that's the result you're going to get. You didn't like when they knelt during a song.
Yep.
You didn't like when they blocked traffic peacefully. What the hell are they supposed to do? I said protesting is in the fabric of America. It's your constitutional right. What the hell are they supposed to do? I can not be a fan of looting and rioting, but I'm also at the point too where it's like, like sit down and draw me a sketch. Draw me a proposal of what is an acceptable form of protest in your mind.
And like, I bet you it's one they've tried.
Yeah. I bet you it's not only one they tried, or you know what it is? It's one that's easy to ignore.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. You know, I had to ask that question, though. And you know what's the last point I'll make about the question of whether or not Mookie did the right thing? Spike Lee, he does hate that question. And you know what he said? He brought a very interesting point. I watched an interview. Spike Lee said, I only ever get asked that by white people.
Yep. Yeah. That makes I get it. Perfect sense. Yes.
That's what he said. He's like, I only ever get asked that question by white people. Nobody else.
I will say then, what was the purpose of naming the film Do the Right Thing then? Because I mean, first of all, I sympathize with Spike Lee in this, and yeah, I get it. But at the same time, he did title the film "Do the Right Thing,"
yes.
And the climax of the movie was Mookie throwing the trash can into the window. So then, I guess, was it meant to be more sarcastic? And was Spike Lee like expecting too much from the general movie-going audience? Or I mean, has he confirmed it? Has he talked about it? Or do you have like a theory on why he named the film Do the Right Thing?
I haven't gone into that deeply, rather. That'd be an interesting thing to look into, however. I want to bring up, though, the memorable supporting cast. God, is this movie stacked with people.
Yeah.
And I forgot how much I loved Robin Harris's Sweet Dick Willie. I forgot how much I love Robin Harris.
It sucks that like most of this cast, like I really went through the IMDb list. I was wondering, like, how many of them are still alive? And yeah, a lot of them have passed away.
Bill Nunn, who played Radio Raheem, he died not too long ago. Mm-hmm. Ruby Dee, who played Mother's sister, she's dead. Ozzie Davis, I think the mayor, he's been dead for years. Robin Harris is long gone. Frank Vincent just died, who played Charlie. He was the one who they soaked with the fire hydrant. I love Frank. Frank Vincent's in this movie for like a cup of coffee, but he's so good. And you'll recognize him. If you're a mob movie fan, you'll recognize him from Goodfellas, Casino. He's the shine box guy in Goodfellas.
Danny Aiello, the guy that plays... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go on.
Danny Aiello, the guy that plays Sal, he literally died last year in December. Like, he was the most recent one.
Yeah, and you know what I didn't know? You know his son is the cop that kills Radio Raheem. That's Danny Aiello's kid. That's Danny Aiello's kid. I did not know that. That's Rick Aiello.
Holy shit!
I didn't know that until this watch, because I saw Rick Aiello in the cast, and I'm like, who is that? And yeah, it's Danny Aiello's kid. But so many people from this movie are dead, and it's a damn shame. But you know who I like in this movie, too? You know who I think doesn't get a lot of credit is Rosie Perez, making her film debut. She's Tina. She's Mookie's girlfriend, and also the mother of his kid. Rosie
also the
Perez,
opening dancer, right?
The opening dancer with the boxing gloves. I like Rosie Perez. She's a better actress than people give her credit for. A lot of people can't get past her voice, which I think is a shame. She was really good in It Could Happen to You, which is one of the best Nicolas Cage movies he's ever done. Honestly, check that one out. It Could Happen to You. That's a really fine movie.
I mean, I was so, like, I'm not saying it's her fault, but she was kind of wasted in Birds of Prey. Like, I felt like they could have done way more with her character, and I just thought that she kind of got thrown to the side because it's not like a big comic character compared to Harley Quinn and all the other ones that actually have, like, superhero names.
There's so many staple characters in this, and I think one of the most noteworthy, or the one that gets the most discourse and Do the Right Thing, though, is probably DeMayer, Ozzie Davis, because he's almost like the neighborhood patriarch, if you will. Like, he's the one who's like the staple of the neighborhood. I like when he goes in at the very beginning and he tells the Korean couple who owns the fruit stand, "You got a lot of gall making a man change his beer because they got no Miller High Life." There's So many good people. Joe, go on.
Giancarlo Esposito is like my favorite character in this, man. Like, I mean, because I love the guy already from Breaking Bad, but like, I never knew he played Bugging Out until this watch. I was like, he looks so familiar, and I finally went on IMDb. I'm like, no way. Like, I love whenever he's on screen. He's so like over the top, but just fits with the movie perfectly, man. It just fits with how like energetic it is, the close-ups and everything, and everybody just sweating, the colors, and it being on that hot summer day. Like, he just comes off as like this natural person that lives in this neighborhood that is just causing this much ruckus.
He matches the energy of the movies that he's in, and he's really good here. I always love the way, even in this watch too, I always love the way when he's criticizing Sal for not having any African Americans on the wall. I always like how he says Michael Jordan. I always love how he says that.
Or, the Italians.
His enunciation is killer in this. Dom, some of your favorite characters in Do the Right Thing.
There's a lot, and like collectively they just work with each other and blend into each other so well in terms of how, and seamlessly, and that's really more so a compliment on Spike Lee and his directing there. But I on top of what Joe said, I got to give it to John Turturro as the son of Sal, the eldest son of Sal, and it's just like, man, it sucks that my true introduction to him consciously was like the Transformers movies. Like, that's what a freaking waste. Because he's just so good here as just the the stereotypical, but like really good stereotypically hot-headed eldest, like Sonny from Godfather, right?
Yes.
But to a more to a less menacing degree, because Sonny actually killed people. But
Sonny from A Bronx Tale.
Yeah, really. But like the fact that the two brothers, their names are Pino and Vito, I was like, man, that sucks. That childhood must have been. No wonder you're angry, because childhood must have been freaking sucked growing up with the name Pino.
Pino. Pino. It's still it's almost like satire. It's almost like subtle satire of like Italians right there. You know what I mean? And they own a pizzeria.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I just love how Spike Lee had those characters be such a pivotal point, as opposed to the stereotypical wealthy wasp, like the guy who scuffs Bugging Out's shoes. He could have been like easily the main, on top of the police, he could have been like the main bad guy in this movie, but no, instead he gives it to the Brooklyn Italians, the real down to salt of the earth pizzeria shop owning Italians who themselves faced generations of discrimination, but because it's 1989, the establishment has kind of decided, they're white now, it's fine. So then let's really focus on the
family forgets about that, but I never bring that up.
Mm-hmm. It's
true.
Amazing, the flip from like, oh yeah, no, Italians, Roman popery. Let's which is totally a line from Gangs of New York, but like. Let's just, they're no better than the Irish. Also, the Irish, they're just as bad as the dirty Africans or whatever. And then now they're just as white as the rest of them. But anyway, I just love how just the dynamic of the two brothers fighting amongst each other, and Sal and what he represents. Sal. And beautifully played as Danny Aiello, and you've already talked about him, Joe. But I just got to give props to him more for being as balanced as he was. At one moment you hate him, another point you're like creeped out by him, but then at another point damn it, he's really endearing and enduring. He's so lovable because
it feels like that tough love aspect to him that every Italian father has. It's just like, because he does care for Mookie. He just wants him to be better. And it's just like, and then like every Italian, he has a hothead personality to him that if you get on his bad side, for some reason he pulls out a bat like Robert De Niro and The Untouchables and is ready to go. I mean,
exactly.
It's just like,
And again, Mookie is a shitty dude.
He had grounds.
So I get it.
Like,
he's yelling at him.
Sal has grounds the entire movie to fire Mookie. Like, he has grounds the entire movie and probably even before that to fire Mookie, but he doesn't. Like, he cares for him in a way.
Yeah.
Like a son in a strange way.
Him and John Turturro, they're sitting having like a lunch break together, and the way he breaks down like why he doesn't want to move to the Italian neighborhood, even though like, you know, one, it wouldn't be good for business, but why he's choosing to stick here. It's because like, yeah, I grew up with these people. I have no like problems with these people. I watched them grow up. I watched the older people get older. Like, you know, it's just like, it's so heartwarming to hear that from somebody. And then, like, you know, it's just like, you're totally right, Don. There's times where you're just like, no, Sal is a POS. And then, like, other times, like, no, Sal's just trying to be a business owner and, like, you know, just trying to get by. Like, you know, he's just struggling. And, like, again, I always gotta keep remembering, because everybody in this movie can be a total asshole at points. And you just gotta remember, it's just like, it is the hottest day of the year. Like, it could just be that day, the heat's just getting to them, and everything's just building up to this climax, of course, that we get.
Yeah, Radio Raheem was getting on my nerves. Like, no joke. I was like, no, you are kind of annoying if you're just blasting that in front of everyone's face all day.
Like, yeah, no offense, man, but yeah, you go inside a restaurant, even if I was eating there, I'd be like, dude, somebody say something. Come on, man.
No, 100%. Now the equivalent of somebody walking into a place with speakerphone on.
Yeah. Or on FaceTime,
the other,
which is annoying as hell to hear.
That's another thing. No, I was going to say, excellently said, Joe. The other character, and this kind of segues into the third idea of like asides or things that define the film and strengthen the themes. I also love, and it's part of me being a radio DJ still, I love Mr. Senior Love Daddy. I've loved him more and more every time I see him, because I love the way he twists words. That here I am. Am I here? What can I say? I say what I can. You know? You know, like, I actually dropped that on my buddy the other day. We were texting, and he said something. He's like, hey, you lucked out. And I say, what can I do? Do what I can. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, I relate to that so much, because it's like, yeah, he would have the time to make up all that stuff, because he is from the era, the very recently past era of radio DJs, where you had to sit there and change records every single song. Not mini discs, not CDs, freaking records, and line up those needles amongst the multiple turntables perfectly, while also hitting your break, also hitting your mark, also coming up with witty things to say. And it's like, and he's just the glue that binds the community together, which you could say about a lot of people, a lot of characters in this movie. But like, he's like honestly, more than Mother, Sister, and the Mayor. He kind of like not oversees, but he's the voice, literally the voice that's in everyone's ear, everyone's boombox, and kind of like, I'm trying to find the word, not lords over the community, but is there throughout the whole community, because he is transmitting on via radio.
Yeah, if Radio Raheem was the looming presence, he's like the aura. He's like the aura.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it.
Go on, Joe.
No, I was gonna say something along that lines too. He's kind of like just like this overseeing, like this third party narrator. I don't know how to really describe it as well, but like, you know, anytime that something's happening in the movie, like, you know, he kind of like narrates it through his like radio. Like at the end of the movie, where he's just like, "I see you, Mookie. You just got paid today. Like, you know, enjoy the rest of your day. You know, everybody here. You know, there's like so much other stuff. You know, he talks about is like when Radio Raheem is about to be introduced, he's like, "Oh, I see walking down the block, Radio Raheem." Like, he is just observing everything that happens in this block and kind of just like gives you enough context to what is this, like, kind of like what the neighborhood is like, and even the characters he brings up. Like, he gives us a little bit more context to all of that. He gives it more personality too.
Also, side note about Raheem, not Raheem. Oh my God, Sam Jackson. In this movie is that he actually has like a really smooth like radio voice. There were points in this movie because as soon as I saw him, like remembered him, like, oh yeah, he's just gonna be like Snakes on a Plane Sam Jackson the whole time. No. He's actually like. He's like a smooth talking radio DJ. He's real good in this movie.
He nails the role. He's the only character too that really doesn't step outside. You know, if you've noticed, he's the only character that doesn't step outside. And he even said too, I was reading a backstory about the production of this. He spent most of his days on set in that booth, and he even said too, he's like, I was needed like 2 or 3 days, and he's like, the downtime I just slept in there. He's like, 'cause I was doing another movie at the time.
Yeah.
He's like, I slept. Okay. He's like, I was exhausted.
Dude, I don't know how the hell I missed this though, because you know we're just bringing up his character right now. I never noticed when Mookie was going to deliver him food. I never noticed the first time I watched this, and even like the times I've caught it like just on TV or something. I never noticed him in the background, like trying to say, Mookie, I'm hungry. Please bring me my food. Like he's pointing at his mouth, pointing at his stomach and everything. I was cracking up. I'm like, how the hell did I never see this before?
It's those little moments of this that are so present. And the other thing too, besides the Public Enemy song "Fight the Power," you have MLK and Malcolm X too.
Yeah.
You have that two smileys trying to sell the photos of throughout the whole thing, and the movie ends with two kind of contradicting quotes from MLK, or let's say bipartisan, more than contradicting, bipartisan quotes of MLK and Malcolm X, where violence's role has in the revolution. Yeah. So their presence is felt throughout the entire movie too. And that strengthens it too. And we're having these same conversations today. That's why I go back and say what I said and say what I mean about the fact that, we should have learned from this movie when the damn thing came out in '89, but we didn't. And now we're here again. Cycle repeats.
Yeah. It's also really, I always found it really cool, like, especially at the end when, like, of course, like, the people that got put up on the Wall of Fame after the building's burning down is Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
On a burning building.
Yeah.
On a burning building. Yeah. I'm really happy we got to rewatch this movie and talk about it at length. We could have probably went longer, but I'm glad. Would you guys say it's required viewing? I would say to the
100%.
With the times now and everything. I mean, Steve, you make up a great point. And like when you brought this up, because this was on your list of films that we recommended, like if you want to have this conversation about social injustice, right? Like we said like. Yeah, dude, like, after watching it now, I'm like, oh my god, like, I completely see what you were saying when you brought up your points now, and even today as well. It's like, dude, yeah, this film kind of, like, it's scary how close it hits home to what happened recently. It really is, man.
Dom, to conclude us, I hate to put you on the spot over here. You posted a really good Facebook status about Do the Right Thing.
A really sad Facebook status.
A really sad one, unfortunately. But if you could read that, or at least to paraphrase it, send us on our way. Let me paraphrase it,
because it's kind of a multiple compound sentence, whatever. I was trying to be witty. But really, at the end of the movie, after the quotes from King and X, it has a dedication and a memoriam to victims of either police abuse. I actually looked up every single one of them after the movie ended. I looked them all up, and they were either, most of them were victims of police violence, like murdered by the police, or it was just general racial violence. So I think one of them was, I forget which one, but he or she was he was run over because he was being chased. He run over in the street because he was being chased by a white mob, and he was just being targeted because he was either black or Puerto Rican. I think black. But and it's like, I looked at those names. I'm like, wow, I don't know any one of those names. And at that time, they were dropping names throughout the movie. I'm like, wow, okay, so instead of those names, it would have just been George Floyd and Breonna Taylor instead. If this was made in 2020, and it's like, oh, okay, so this has been going on for decades. Oh, this has been going on for centuries. Okay, cool. So that's and what I posted was more so just, if you had continued to add names onto that in memoriam list or dedicated to the families of list from 1989 to today, and tomorrow's George Floyd, tomorrow's Breonna Taylor, that list would be its own credits on top of the already existing film credits, and it would just be really, really depressing to see. And and it's like Spike Lee's film here is just so it's timeless. It's so dated in so many aspects, but the message and the overall movie is just absolutely timeless because society has failed to make it a relic. Society has failed to make it a thing of the past. And it was just so predictive for its time. 1989, and it was portraying the tensions between, between the black community and the Korean community in Brooklyn. And then 3 years later, I mean, at the end of the movie, let me just say, and I'm Filipino, not Korean, but let me just say that the movie was too kind in that regards, because 3 years later, after the movie was released in 1992 in Los Angeles during the Rodney King riots, Koreans were shooting from the rooftops. Rooftop Koreans is the meme now, sadly, but they were shooting at black looters And that tension was there because because a Korean shop owner had shot a little black girl for shoplifting a box of orange juice. So that tension was already there. So yeah, if anything, Spike Lee, if that was more accurate, although that crowd would have absolutely looted the Korean store owners, and the store owners would have started shooting at the. So like, it's just astounding at how absolutely timeless this movie sadly is, and we just so need to make it a thing of the past, but we refuse to do so because we don't learn, and as a society we don't learn and we don't listen, and it's oh boy, I can't wait in when our children start their own movie podcast and they're like, hey, we should do the right thing. Oh wow, man, this thing is timeless, man. It's just like man, I can go on, but it's.
I knew I left you with the final word for a reason, my friend. Mm-hmm. Excellent stuff. We will segue now after that excellent required viewing. Awesome panel, guys. Great work.